Good day, everyone, and welcome everyone to today's business health check, and also the second in our series on e-commerce. I'm Collins Rex. I'm a director with the Global Trade Professionals Alliance, who hosts these webinars, and we're delighted to have you along today. Really happy to see some familiar names on the screen and some new faces, proverbially speaking, as well. So without much ado, let's get straight into today's session. We've got quite a lot of ground to cover, and I'm hoping that by the end of today, we'll all be a little bit wiser about marketplaces and platforms. Please take note of the disclaimer on the screen. The information provided today is of a general nature. If you want to apply it to your business, make sure that it's appropriate. So what are we going to be covering today? Well, a few things to get through, as I said. Selling directly versus selling indirectly. We're also going to be looking at marketplaces versus platforms. Then we'll focus a little bit on marketplaces, particularly the big three, and a bonus as well for those of you who might be involved in the handmade or the crafting sector. What it costs, because there are some hidden costs in these things that you need to be aware of. And finally, selecting the right marketplace. So when we talk about selling directly via e-commerce, we are literally talking about using your own website as your shopfront. So selling through your own website without any intervention by an external party. Before you can do that, however, there are some questions that you need to ask yourself, and the answers need to be very clear, or else you are going to find that your website just isn't functioning as efficiently as it could be. So first of all, is your website e-commerce enabled? Now, what does that mean? It means that you don't just have a website on which you have a series of photographs of some of the products that you want to sell, and people click on those products and then communicate with you somehow. It means you need to have an actual shop which functions in the virtual realm. And we're going to be talking a little bit later on about platforms and how those actually enable you to build that e-commerce site. You also need to know that your site is robust enough to cope with large volumes of traffic. If you are successful, and we certainly hope you will be, you might find that far more people are visiting your site than you had envisaged at the start when you designed your site, and your site may not be able to cope. When sites don't cope, just as when physical stores are overloaded, they close the doors. Well, your site will close its doors too, and it will shut out any potential customers. Does your website run properly on multiple devices? It's not enough to have a website that functions really well on a desktop. You need a device that runs particularly on mobile devices, and that is mostly smartphones, where today most customers are making their purchasing decisions. Do you have a shopping cart set up? So if people actually want to buy, are they able to find those goods, put them in a virtual shopping cart and pay for them on the way out? Do you have a one-click checkout? Customers don't want to go through the same process several times every time they visit your website. They want to know that they've done it once. You will securely secure their data and store it, and the next time they come to purchase from you, it happens seamlessly with one click. Do you use SSL, Secure Sockets Layer? And this is authentication for your web and the data that you are going to be dealing with on the web. If you don't have an SSL site, you will almost certainly find that people will not purchase from you because they will not trust you, and with very good reason, because you are not adequately protecting their data. Now, last week we talked quite a bit about having a website that functions properly, and we also talked a fair bit about cybersecurity, so make sure you recheck that. Do you employ an address and card verification system? If you are not verifying the details that people are inputting, there's a very good chance that you will be the victim of fraud. People will buy, but they will not pay. You need to understand who it is you're dealing with. Do you use tracking numbers for orders? If you don't, you will find it very difficult for a customer to be able to inquire with you if there is a problem with the order. So there has to be a tracking number. Very importantly, is your staff qualified to deal with both customer and technology issues? You may have staff that is really great in a customer-facing position, but how do they deal with the technology issues that underpin the e-commerce component of your website? If your current staff that are front-facing are really good with customers but bad with technology, you probably have to look at employing people or outsourcing the technology aspect of your business so that it runs as efficiently as your customer service. Where is your site hosted? Is it hosted securely? Your site is almost certainly, unless you're a really big business, hosted by a third party. Where is it hosted? Is it securely hosted? In which country is it hosted? Just because your provider is based in the country that you are doesn't mean that that is where they host your website. You need to know, and you need to know by asking the question, where are you hosting my site? In which physical country is it hosted? Where are your servers? If it's hosted in the cloud, what exactly does that mean? You need to understand, because it will affect the way in which you handle the data of your potential customers, and it will affect the security of your site ultimately as well. Do you have a disaster recovery plan? Now, what do we mean by that? We mean if you have a site that functions pretty well and there is a monumental disaster somewhere and your site crashes. It crashes because there was a hacking attempt, or because it was overloaded, or the servers crashed where your site is hosted. It can crash for any number of reasons. What is your disaster recovery plan? Are you backing up your customer records in a safe and secure way that can be re-accessed? Are you backing up the orders in a way that is safe and secure and can be re-accessed? So if I am a customer and I've purchased from you, the site crashes, my order needs to be retrievable, particularly if I have already given you payment information. I don't want to have to come back to you and say, I've paid, where are my things? I haven't got them, and you can't find them in your system. So you must have a robust disaster recovery plan, and you need to be able to implement it almost instantly. Do you have an appropriate marketing strategy in place? So do you understand display ads, comparative shopping feeds, product ads on marketplaces, marketing through affiliate partners? You can have the best possible website with the greatest products, everything functioning at the top. But if you cannot be found in this quagmire that is the internet, you're not going to get any customers. You need to be able to sell what you have by marketing what you have. And that means, amongst other things, you need to make effective use of search engine optimization. Do you understand what that is? Do you understand how best to employ SEO to make sure that your site reaches towards the top, if not the top, of all those search engines? And remember, there's not just Google. Google is still the largest, but there are any other number of search engines that you need to comply with as well. So selling directly is using your website as your shopfront, if you like, with all the implications of that. Selling indirectly is using a third-party provider. So effectively, you are the wholesaler providing your goods to a retailer who sells your goods on your behalf. Again, several questions you need to answer before you make the decision about whether this is the right pathway for you, and indeed where to go to get that service provision. So where do your target customers shop? You need to find out, if you are selling online for the first time, the customers that you would like to reach what do they traditionally buy through? And by now, we've been buying online for long enough for there to be a really good track record of demographics and where people go. So what you're selling, people are buying already in another form. Are they buying it on Amazon? Are they buying through eBay? Are they buying directly through a retailer like Target or Kmart? A retailer like IKEA, for example. IKEA, obviously not the greatest example because they're not going to be buying from you probably, but they could do depending on what it is you have, particularly now that there's a slightly more crafty focus on a lot of what they do. But you need to understand, where do your target customers shop? If you are aiming at a demographic that is female, 45 to 55 in age, certain interests, etc., where are those people going to buy their goods? How many competing products are already listed on the site that you're considering? So if you are looking at an Amazon, for example, and you are selling shoes, how many other shoes are already being sold on Amazon? You need to understand who you're competing with and how many potential competitors you have. Will your customers be enticed away from your product through the competition? Or is the competition a good thing because what you have is a point of difference that makes you stand out above the competition? Does the site have a good reputation, and do they have really good market penetration? Now, if you're going with one of the big three, and we'll be talking about those later on today, they probably have a good market penetration and a good reputation. If you're choosing a more niche marketplace for your products, you need to ask this question. We will be later on today looking at some templates with questions that you can apply before you make the decision about where you choose to sell. When you search for similar products, so you type into Google shoes, how well does the site that you're thinking of selling on rank in that search engine? So you type shoes and it comes up with shoes and it shows you where you can buy shoes. How well does the marketplace that you're thinking of rank in those searches? Can you set up a page for your own business within the site? So if you are looking at selling through a marketplace, does that marketplace allow you your own shingle, your own shop front within the site? Or is it just a product that is listed along with all the other products? It may not be important for you to have a shop front, that's fine. But if it is important, you need to choose the appropriate channel through which you sell. Are you able to access your own product information online through the site? Can you go in and change pricing? Can you go in and change pictures, etc.? Or do you constantly have to work through the site? If you have to work through the site, it means that there is a lag between your wanting the information uploaded and the information actually making it online. That may not be important to you. If it is, you need to choose appropriately. Very importantly, considering that if you're doing it yourself through your own website, marketing is absolutely crucial. So too, if you are working indirectly, marketing is crucial, but you cannot market the site. The site markets itself. So how well does it do that? How well is the site marketed, both online and offline? So the site markets itself through follow-on ads, etc., just as you would do if you were doing it directly, and probably still will for your product, but offline as well. Do they advertise in traditional mediums? Do they have ads in newspapers, billboards, etc.? How do they advertise and market themselves? Does the site have pricing rules and restrictions? And this is a very important consideration. If the site determines the price at which you may sell your product, it could severely affect your bottom line, i.e. your profit margin. If the site has those rules and restrictions, you need to understand that you are going to have to sell large volumes of goods in order to still make the profit that you need. You need to understand the rules. What is the site's commission structure? Every site has some form of commission, and when we talk about the big three, we'll have a look at some of the pricing structures that they have in place, but every site is earning money through some mechanism, and commission might make it really difficult again for you to maintain a proper profit margin. What other fees are being charged? Are there, for example, monthly fees or a transaction fee? Again, most sites have some form of ongoing monthly fees, a subscription, if you will, and also they take a clip of the ticket. You need to understand what that is. Does the site allow you to discount your product through other online channels, including your own website? So you might have made a decision that you are going to be selling directly through your own website, but you're casting the net wider by also listing your products through an online marketplace. If you do that, does the online marketplace allow you to change your pricing that you are doing directly? You might find that they don't. And if you drop the price in one channel, they might automatically drop it in another. They keep a very close look at these things, and they don't allow you to undercut them on their own site. So bear that in mind as well. There's also the chance that if you drop your prices on your own website and not on the channel kicks you out. So do be aware of that. Do you have a marketing strategy to direct customers to your products on the site? It's not enough to depend on an Amazon, for example, to market an Amazon. You still have to market your own products and direct people to where they can purchase them on the site that you're listing. So you have to advertise your shoes and tell them that they can purchase their shoes through Amazon. Does the site have top-level back-end services? So that includes logistics, customer service, technical support. Ultimately, the shop front is no longer yours. Your products are sitting in somebody else's shop, on somebody else's shelf. They need to maintain that shop and they need to maintain the shelves. So you need to make sure that you are working with a site that has all the necessary back-end technical things firmly in hand. Now let's pause for a moment and look at the difference between a platform and a marketplace. People very often use those two terms interchangeably as if they were the same thing. Well, they're not. So a platform is a business model that creates value by facilitating the exchange between two or more interdependent groups, usually consumers and producers. Now, that is a technical definition. The reality is that what a platform does, it enables that which you produce to be put in front of somebody who is potentially a buyer of that product. A marketplace is actually a type of platform. It's a specific type of platform business model that focuses on facilitating exchanges between buyers and sellers. So marketplace is a virtual shop, essentially. There are two types of platforms. There are exchange platforms and market platforms, and marketplaces are just exchange platforms. It'll make more sense if you look at this next slide. So an exchange platform, which is what marketplaces sit under, include things like Uber, Airbnb, eBay, Amazon, etc. People, consumers go to these places and they purchase certain goods or services. Maker platforms is the thing that is used to create an e-commerce enabled website, essentially the building blocks for an online shop. So there you have things like iOS as a platform, Android as a platform, etc. And we'll be looking in more detail at platforms in a moment. E-commerce platforms are what you need to use to create your own fully functional online shop. Now, there are literally hundreds of these out there. Some of them are open source and are essentially free to download. Of course, there are always things that you have to purchase along the way, but they are essentially free. And then there are the ones that are just out and out commercial and you purchase them. So the top platforms in the world at the moment are Magento. Magento is a very popular open source content management system. It's loved by millions of users and developers across the globe. It's relatively easy to use. Because it's open source, it's also cheap to use, and it means that others from outside Magento itself are constantly adding things to it, as happens in the open source realm. WooCommerce custom development is designed for e-commerce stores that use WordPress as the development tool. And they run the gamut from really small businesses to really large businesses. Shopify is one that you probably have heard of more likely than Magento and WooCommerce, because they are seen to be more user-friendly for smaller businesses. It's an all-in-one e-commerce platform for particularly small and mid-sized businesses. And very importantly, it can be integrated with Amazon and eBay. BigCommerce is a reliable e-commerce platform that's known for its simplicity and lots of really funky features. And finally, of the top 5, Volusion, which is a cloud-based e-commerce platform. And again, it's known for its responsive themes. So who uses these platforms, which will give you an idea of the scale and the scope of them. So just looking at the top 3, Magento is the chosen platform for Coca-Cola, for Ford, for Christian Louboutin, and a host of others, many of them really large businesses. WooCommerce, also relatively large businesses in the form of Singer and Weber, the barbecue guys, but it's also the chosen platform for the All Blacks, for example, because if you think of it, sporting teams sell a huge amount of merchandise. And finally, Shopify is the choice of Tesla, Red Bull, Penguin Books. And looking at some of the people that use Shopify, you get a sense that they are the more out there, slightly funkier businesses that do things in a slightly different way. But they're not all small businesses. However, Shopify does lend itself very well to smaller businesses. Now, switching from platforms, which obviously you are going to need if you are designing your own online e-commerce enabled shop, to marketplaces. The big 3, the ones that everybody knows and loves or hates in equal proportion, depending on your experiences with them. Amazon Marketplace. Now, the Amazon Marketplace is obviously one of the most well-known marketing channels for online retailers, and it also makes it the most competitive as a result. To sell on Amazon, you need to choose a plan. So there's a subscription plan. You create a seller account, you upload your products to Amazon, and then of course you hope for the best. You hope that your products are seen and found and you can sell them. If you don't market them appropriately, it will be problematic. Now, there are some best practices for dealing with Amazon. When you are selling through Amazon, you really need to think about the Amazon search engine optimization, and you need to take that into account when you create your product listings. You really do need to invest your own marketing dollars if you want to drive sales through Amazon. And that means you really need to be looking at enhancing content, building your own SEO, advertising, etc. You need to keep your supply chain and your fulfillment consistent and reliable. If you're going to sell through Amazon, you need to be able to supply. If you can't supply in good volume, in good time, you need to rethink whether Amazon is the right place for you. Amazon has a brand registry that you can enroll in, and you really do need to do that to make sure that your brand is protected and that your customers have the best experience. And before you decide to sell on Amazon, you need to understand what you need to sell on Amazon. Not all products are created equal on Amazon. Look at it, research it, have a good sense of what is selling and how, and choose your niche appropriately. And then take advantage of Amazon advertising. They have an advertising agency that takes care of advertising on Amazon. You need to make sure that you hook into that. Now, eBay started its life as something quite different to what it is today. eBay was a place where individual people listed stuff for sale. Some of the stuff was new, some of the stuff was secondhand. Of course, that still happens, but now you have the massive component of eBay as an online retail channel. eBay has around 180 million worldwide buyers. It's one of the biggest online retailers, and it sells pretty much everything you can think of. Now, very positive is that eBay offers a quick start guide to help you to start selling in quick steps. You can create a My eBay page from which to answer questions and view sales information and so on. And it also offers business consultation, which is free, and it has an e-business efficiency guide, seller development resources, etc. Now, if you can, some of the best practices for eBay, you need to offer fast, free, or low-cost shipping and free returns. Very important. That will convert far more shoppers than just about anything else you can do on eBay. You need to optimize your titles and your product descriptions for eBay search. So have a look at what other people are selling and how they are listing and describing those products, and follow suit for the ones that are selling well. You need to make sure that your product listings and your photos are accurate, and you need to give as much information as you can to avoid customers being confused or thinking they're buying one thing when in fact they're buying something else, and they are dissatisfied and you get really bad reviews. You also need to price your products competitively, and that includes competitive shipping costs. Now, the final one of the big three that we're going to look at, and one which is, of course, particularly important if you are looking at selling to a Chinese market, is Alibaba. Alibaba is China's e-commerce giant. It started as literally just a startup in the founder, Jack Ma's garage. It employed 18 people. It now employs over 22,000 employees. To sell on Alibaba, you need to register for an account, you need to establish your company profile, you need to list your products, and it's also important to know, and this is very, very important, it can take years to be established on Alibaba because there are so many products being listed. You need to be in it for the big haul if you are selling through Alibaba. Now, Alibaba is a B2B website, so you're not selling directly to consumers, you're selling to other businesses. Bestsellers are generally items that can be mass produced and sold wholesale to replenish inventory for customers. You need to be able to sell a lot and supply a lot of units if you're going to be successful on Alibaba. Alibaba has a membership system. You have to choose the appropriate membership for your product and your business. If you are going to be serious about Alibaba and you're really going to invest in this becoming your primary marketplace channel, you need to think about investing in a gold membership, and also take advantage of Alibaba's training and education resources. They have lots of them, which they make available. They make them available free of charge. And if you're going to do well on Alibaba, you really need to use all the resources at your disposal. Now, one other that we're going to look at, it's not one of the big four, but it is a very important marketplace if you are a maker, and that is Etsy. Etsy is geared towards crafters, artists, collectors. It's particularly known for items categorized as vintage or supplies. So if you, for example, are a manufacturer of knitting yarn, for example, suppliers to knitters. Etsy is designed to sell handmade items created by the person selling the product. And that's a very important distinction between Etsy and many of the others. Now, to sell on Etsy, you have to create an Etsy account. You need to set up a shop location. And very importantly, you need to select the currency that you are selling in. You need to choose a shop name because you are effectively having your own little shop within the Etsy marketplace, which if you think of Etsy as a shopping center and you have a shop within that shopping center. You need to create a listing, you need to set a payment method, that's up to you to do, and you need to set a billing method, that's up to you to do as well. So much as the big three take all of that stuff out of your hands, when you're doing it through Etsy, it's your little shop, you control it, and you have to have all the technical things dealt with on your own basis. So some of the things that you need to think about with Etsy: look at their advertising options. They've got various ways that they do that. They have promoted listings, they run Google shopping ads. You can manage all of that through an advertising dashboard on Etsy. You have to be selling unique, high quality products, and your photographs on Etsy need to reflect that, which means you need to invest some money in your product photography. You really do need to have beautiful art type photographs of your products. We're not talking eBay where as long as you kind of show the product and the product is identifiable from various angles, that's good enough. On Etsy, people are coming to find that handmade, hand feel, if you like. So your photographs need to show that. Aesthetics really matter on Etsy, and the backstory really matters on Etsy as well. So bear that in mind. You're almost selling through an online art gallery. So what does it cost? Well, looking at some of the brief costs, Amazon, if you have a professional seller or you're an individual seller, the costs differ. So for a professional seller, you're a business listing your products, there's a monthly subscription fee. That subscription fee is $39.99. This is US. There are referral fees on each item sold, and that varies by category depending on what it is you're selling. And then there are variable closing fees, and again, that varies by category. If you're an individual seller, so you're one person selling to one person, essentially, there's no monthly subscription fee. There's a 99 US dollar cent fee for each item sold, and again, variable closing fees depending on the category. Bear all of this in mind when you are determining the price of your product so that you make sure that your pricing is appropriate. And over the next few weeks, we will be looking in more detail at pricing to sell online. eBay charges two different types of selling fees. There's an insertion fee when you create your listing and a final value fee when you sell items. So essentially a commission, if you like, on the sale. Alibaba, the pricing depends on the type of product you sell and also the individual Alibaba portal you sell it on. So there are lots of different portals in Alibaba. Some of them don't charge a fee at all. You need to choose the appropriate portal for your product and your business. But there are also subscription and transaction fees in most cases. Now, sellers join for free, but a basic membership on Alibaba really limits the number of products you display and access to promotional tools, etc. So if you use the free option, you may as well not bother, because you're really going to struggle to have your goods found and actually sell anything at all. Selling on Alibaba can be very expensive for smaller retailers. Any seller fees are in addition to the 1% charge associated with Alipay, which is the company's PayPal-like payment processor, and you have to use Alipay. Bear that in mind. Make a concerted decision. Alibaba has lots and lots and lots of customers, but you need to understand what the true cost is of listing your product on Alibaba. Now, Etsy has a 5% transaction fee. There's a subscription fee again, and it depends on the tier that you choose. There's a shipping fee, and that shipping fee includes things like Etsy shipping labels, USPS labels, FedEx, Canada Post, etc. And for businesses that are new to the platform, Etsy offers the first 40 listings for free, which is a really good way to almost try before you buy. If you choose the Etsy Plus plan, it costs an additional $10 a month. And in exchange for that, you get some more tools, bells and whistles, etc., that will help you market your brand more effectively. Now, remember, not all marketplaces are created equal. You need to choose the ones best suited to your product, to the size and type of your business, your budget, very, very importantly, and your target market. Also bear in mind the rules and the regulations for the different marketplaces and how that will affect your bottom line. Also understand that not all marketplaces are popular or indeed even available in all markets. Do your research. Don't choose to sell on Amazon in a market where Amazon cannot be accessed. Don't choose Alibaba in a market where Alibaba is not accepted. So make sure that you choose appropriately depending on what it is you are selling, how it is you want to sell it, what you want to achieve, and what the end goal is for your brand. Also bear in mind that your brand will be very closely associated with the marketplace you choose. Choose one that has a reputation that you like and that you can relate to. Now, we don't need to go through these line by line. Today's session is being recorded. It will be made available, as will the PowerPoint deck, so you will have access to these. But some things that you need to look at, and it's really wise to weigh up 2 or 3 different marketplaces with all of these same criteria: marketplace reputation and customer reach, ability to market an individual brand. So what is the marketplace going to do for you and your brand and your product? The level of competition, that's very important as well. Ongoing marketing and listing costs. So the upfront costs are one thing. Those are generally quite clear and concise. What are the ongoing marketing and listing costs in that particular marketplace as well? What are the back-end services? So what sort of logistics do they provide? Do they take care of customs clearances? What customer services do they provide? What technical support do they have for you? What is the time zone that stuff is available in? If you are, for example, in Australia and your provider is Amazon, do they have local offices where you can actually speak to somebody in your own time zone? Or do you have to go to the US if you have a particular issue? Understand the logistics of that. And that brings us to the end of today's session. We've covered a lot of ground. I will take any questions if there are any. You're welcome to post them in the Q&A block. In advance of today's session, I did have a couple of questions that came through. In fact, there were probably about 5 or 6. Most of them, I think, have been answered in the presentation, so we probably don't need to cover that same ground. One of the questions I've had has been around how you actually determine the final cost involved in listing in a marketplace. Is it published, for example? Yes, every one of the marketplaces, particularly the ones we've covered today, have detailed information available on exactly what they charge. But just as when you are determining how much tax you need to pay somewhere, the detailed information is available, but it can be very difficult to understand for the layperson. It could be a fair quagmire. So I suggest that what you do is you contact the marketplace and you tell them specifically what you want to sell, how you want to sell it, what sort of price point you'd be looking at for that product, how many units you think you will be moving of that product because you've done all your other research already, and you ask them to give you a quote. Once you've got a quote, it gives you a much clearer idea of how, in fact, you are going to pay at the end of the day and how much margin you can expect to make. I've also had a question which seems quite simple, but the truth is it might not be that obvious. How exactly do marketplaces work? Well, we've covered some specifics on 4 marketplaces, but in general terms, how do marketplaces work? Well, essentially, a shopper makes a purchase on an e-commerce marketplace. So they go to the online shop. The marketplace then passes the order back to you, the seller. You send the customer the product. So they kind of sit in that broker perspective. Customer comes to the marketplace, so they walk into the virtual shop, they take something off a shelf, but you control how that gets to them and when. That generally is the way that it works. Now, there are some like Amazon and Google and various others that also provide their own warehousing facilities. You can store and you can buy an entire end-to-end solution so that you don't have to be bothered with logistics or anything of that nature. That depends on what you choose, the package that you choose, and so on. And final question that I think we'll take today, because I think we are starting to run short of time, is what is the greatest benefit of using a marketplace versus selling directly through my own website? Well, the biggest benefits is that the marketplace has a pre-existing customer base. The customers are already there. You don't have to go and find them from scratch. The customers are there. That's the biggest advantage. Of course, just because the customer is there doesn't mean the customer is going to find your product or indeed purchase your product. You're still going to have to put in some effort, but at least the customers are already there. And I think that brings us to the end of today's session. So as you know, over the entire month of September, we're focusing on e-commerce. And next week, we're going to be looking at effective customer engagement strategies. So that all important piece around how you actually get customers to want to buy that which you have to sell. Watch your inbox for registration details. It'll be same time, same place. And I look forward to the pleasure of your company then. If you have any general questions around business, around international business specifically, if there's a particular issue that you need to raise, a question that you have that is a burning issue, have a look at the GTPA website, gtpalliance.com. There are many resources there that you can access to make your business a little bit better, give you a connection to the world if you like. But if you have a specific question, you are more than welcome to send it to me. My email address is on the screen. You're also welcome to address your questions to Lisa McCauley, our CEO. If we don't have the answers, we have a raft of experts that we can draw on to help you with the issue that you have. So please visit the website, drop us an email, and we look forward to the pleasure of your company again next week, same time, same place. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming along. It's been a pleasure having you.